How did I first get involved with the ride? Originally, a guy, a mate called Wayne Bradshaw, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I've got an idea."
There was a ride on the East Coast that was a fundraiser, and I said, "Hey guys, why don't we set ourselves a challenge? Why don't we do something?" Got a group of us together and dreamed up this ride of riding from Albany to Perth. We thought that'd be a challenge, and for us it was, and it still is in many cases. And we actually had to pick the charity, and back in those days, Peter Trench was part of the early forming group.
Sort of grew from there. So the first year we put the bike in the back of an old in a careless fish truck, and they drove it down to Albany. We went on an old bus down there. There was 24 of us from memory, and it was just all about having a good time, a bit of camaraderie, a bit of fun, but also an opportunity for the dads to to give back.
Wayne said, "Oh look, Gus Erdy is a mate of Trench's, he's a mentor, and Gus is the chair of Youth Focus, and we're thinking about doing that charity." So I was digging him in the ribs and saying, "Well, I think the Youth Focus, I think they need it." And to be honest, mental health isn't spoken about.
So we interviewed Youth Focus, and that was the beginning of the 20-year partnership.
It came from a conversation between Peter Trench and myself. Peter said there was a number of riders that he was riding with at the time, were all fathers of children at Floreat Primary School, and they were looking for a charity to support. And I was the chair of Youth Focus at the time, and I suggested Youth Focus, and thankfully they agreed, and here we are today.
I remember interviewing Jenny Allen in my office and finding out more about Youth Focus, and from there it was pretty much a recommendation of Peter and myself that we go with Youth Focus, and everyone got on board.
And I had to go and meet with Wayne and do a bit of a song and dance and persuade him that that's the way we should really go. And we had on side not only Gus but Peter Trench, and it really formed from there, where we decided, well, okay, this is a great idea, why don't we go forward with it?
As young, many of us were sort of mid to late 30s, lots of parents with young kids, and it resonated with us.
There's stories of people turning up to training with their nicks on back to front. They're not realising it until about half an hour into the ride.
They'd said, "No, you need to have arm warmers and you need to bring some goggles, it's cold." And so I was riding to this meeting point about 2 or 3 kilometres, and I had my wife's stockings on, keep warm, and I had some Bunnings goggles, the $5 ones that you do your woodwork with. And I thought, what am I getting myself into?
We're heading towards Donnybrook. We're coming down one of the big hills, and this emu came out of nowhere and just collided with one of the riders. He thankfully managed to stay upright, and we didn't see much of the emu after that. It just took off. We were more concerned about the rider. I can't tell you what happened to the emu.
The first year, to see them come through and to know those riders and to know what we had experienced on that ride was always emotional. I always fought back tears.
What the special memory for me was when we all adjourned to Albany High School, and that was really the pivoting point where we left from there officially for the ride.
We're on the first ride that we did. It was shocking weather. It was just terrible. It was raining, and all our wishes and dreams of having a really nice, easy ride were blown away.
There was like cyclonic conditions for the first couple of days. It was like being in a steel tube with someone with cold water and a fire hose blasting at you for 6 hours.
We rode round to Stirling Highway and finished at the UWA boat shed, and upon arrival, same as today, but much smaller back then. Our family were there with placards and banners and cheering, and in between the showers and the rain and the wind, we're all just really satisfied that we'd achieved something pretty special.
Well, over the last 20 years, I believe the Ride for Youth has had enormous impact on Youth Focus, and if I'm not mistaken, it's raised in excess of 12 million or thereabouts. Is it 26 million? Yeah. Wow, isn't that amazing? Guys, you've got to be impressed, surely. Yeah, definitely. That is just an amazing effort. I don't know too many other charities can boast that sort of record.
No, it's phenomenal. Yeah, just the way the kids are these days. They're when I was a young fella at school, you didn't really want to share too much. You're pretty quiet about it. You didn't ask those tough questions, and You feel now that kids are asking those questions. You know, having a counsellor in a school or in a small community, going to 2 or 3 schools in that community, gives kids the opportunity to chat to somebody when you know, things aren't going too well.
I think when we first started, we raised $150,000 in the first year. Raising $2 million per annum is a huge contribution to youth focus and outcomes for our youth.
Look, I hope that the ride continues.
I'd like to think it's more of the same, in the sense that we build a vehicle which is doing a lot of good, a vehicle that is introducing a lot of corporates, high flyers who can get exposed to this area of mental health, and small is a beautiful thing. I'd like to think we'll cogitate around a certain number, but it's more the message that we get out and we grow that. It's like we do that to a multiple of 3, 5, 10.
20 years is a long time, but you know, there's certainly been some fantastic change, and we've got to keep the momentum up, and we've got to keep thinking outside the square as in regards to how we can continue assisting kids and young adults so that they you know, have a positive outlook on life rather than a negative outlook.
I think what separates this one from other events is that emotional attachment, that's camaraderie that you build up through the training and through the team process and through the education of the riders about the actual outcome and the cause.
To me, it's the way these riders and everyone who supports the ride have come together and really pull in the one direction. It's just awesome to see.